Are you a nurse and you love to go practice as a nurse in New Zealand? This video is for you. Since December 2023, Nursing and Midwifery Council New Zealand has been going through one phase of change after another phase. A lot of changes, of course, we know has gone on. A lot of amendments has been done. A lot of new requirements have been added. So in my previous videos about being able to register as a nurse in New Zealand, I've made like what it used to be before. But now today, this video is as of 2024. I would like to say you scrap all that because this is a new process now, which I think it's actually positive process. Yes, I know people at times are scared of writing exams, people are scared of the course, but I do think it's a positive process because it's going to help nurses outside to be able to come to New Zealand to practice faster, because the process now resembles that of the UK process. And the reason why nurses are able to get registered in UK and be able to come down is because once you're able to pass the very first part of the exam, which is the CBT, you're always able to get an employer who sponsors the rest of it until whenever you land in the UK, right? So that's exactly what the New Zealand pathway now looks like. Okay, isn't that good news? I think it's a good news because now all you have to do is focus on passing the first part of the exam. In this video, I'm going to be telling you like the new requirements, the step to step. I'm not going to go in depth into the old parts that weren't changed, okay? I'm only going to go in depth in the new added things and then the cost, most especially the cost of what this new process is going to look like now. Hello everybody, my name is Ada. Thank you so much to all my returning subscribers, and if you're seeing my face for the first time, thank you so much for taking the stop. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, okay? Literally, yeah, I'm waiting. Give this video a like and please hit the subscribe button if you do find any value in this content today, because in this channel I share information about relocation ideas. I'm a registered nurse in the UK and I've been in the process of actually migrating to Australia as a registered nurse. And through that process, I have decided to go through New Zealand. So I had to first of all get registered as a New Zealand registered nurse first, and then eventually as an Australian registered nurse. Hence why I've been sharing this information and I've been sharing my journey all through the way. I will try to share my screen as much as possible, but if not, I'm just going to be pasting them. I will also be leaving the link of this site exactly where you can find this information for further read and know if this actually is the best pathway for you to take in 2024. But frankly, I would encourage you to do that. We're going to go straight now into the Nursing and Midwifery Council portal for New Zealand and see what the requirements looks like. So you have your identity, your passport and all that, and then the next step is always like your English language requirement. We know you must have either an OET or an IELTS, okay? And for your IELTS, all you need is like a 7 in all and then a 6.5 in your writing, just like the UK. And then if you're doing an OET, you need a 350 in all and then a 300 in your writing, okay? So either an IELTS or an OET. If you already have these things, maybe you're preparing for UK, this is the thing. You can as well use them for the next requirements which you need to have. Of course, your current registration, you must be a registered nurse in a country. You can't start this process if you're not already registered. And then the next major thing is like your post-registration experience. So you must have like a total of at least 1,800 hours put in as work post-registration. So let's say, I think you can still get this within the first 12 months post graduation, okay? So within the first 12 months of being a graduate nurse or you're done with your school of nursing, you can be able to gather 1,800 hours and be able to qualify to apply for this. And you need to have this before you go ahead to start your CGFNS registration, okay? And then after that, now we're going into the very major part. So now New Zealand has brought out this new exams, which is like a competence exam, okay? Now this exam is going to be in 2 batches. There's going to be like a theoretical and a clinical exam process, okay? So from 4th of December 2023, an internationally qualified nurse who applies to New Zealand to become a registered nurse is required to undertake an assessment of competence and will need to successfully complete the following: an online theoretical exam that tests nursing knowledge taken at an accredited exam center overseas or in New Zealand. So now the information has gotten that these exams are going to be taken in the Person View Center just the same way it was like the CBT, okay? So you can actually take this exam wherever you have the Person View Center. So if you're in Nigeria, you can take these exams in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Abuja, you know, wherever you take your CBT ideally. And the first, just like the UK process, I would like to say this is just like the UK process. So all the fears we used to have before are away. You can do this now, okay? And then that's the first part of it, and you need to pass that exam, of course. And then the second part is a 2-day orientation and preparation course, followed by a 3-hour clinical examination known as the OSCE, okay? Known as the OSCE. So this will take place in person in New Zealand at an accredited center, just like the UK. Once you've passed the CBT part of it, then you have to do the OSCE, but then the OSCE would only be done here in New Zealand. Now, there are employers who are willing to recruit you the moment you have your CBT. Yes, I'm telling you, there are lots of employers that are willing to recruit you the moment you have your English and you have your CBT. So what you need to focus on right now is to be able to have your CBT and then have your English. And once you have those two things, you will be able to secure yourself an employer and be able to relocate to New Zealand. Bear in mind also that New Zealand has now topped up their salary for nurses. Before, Australia used to pay like so much more than New Zealand, but right now in 2024, New Zealand pay is equivalent to that of Australia. Of course, the dollar value might be different, but they are like in great competition with whatever you're going to get as a pay in Australia. So I think New Zealand is a very good option now for nurses who are in 2024 looking to relocate. After those two exams, the next thing which you need to have is your Ngwa Perewa. Ngwa Perewa is like a cultural practice exam in New Zealand. Before you're able to come to New Zealand and practice, you must have this you must do this test, okay? You have to do this course. It's an online course, and then you do like a test and then you pass it. It's not difficult. I've done it. Then you need to have like a criminal police check for every country you have visited and lived in for 12 months or more in the last 6 years. So if you visited a country and you only spent 4 months, 6 months there, you don't have to do a check on it. But if you spend up to 12 months in a particular country in the last 6 years, you have to do like the criminal police check for all that country. Okay, so now let's go to like the most important part, which has been scary people, which is like the cost implication of the whole process. The Nursing Council fee to process your application is 485 New Zealand dollars. That's like the first fee you're going to pay. So but before you start getting to this part, you have to first of all go and do your IELTS. Okay, so the cost for IELTS is not included in this cost breakdown. The cost for IELTS, the cost for CBT is not included in this cost breakdown. So first of all, for verifying and authenticating documents with CGFNS, you'll be paying $300. So bear in mind the currencies and the differences and the rates, you know, in the conversion and all. So the first thing which you have to do is verifying your documents with CGFNS. For that, you have to pay $300, okay? $300. Then the next thing you're doing is the international criminal history check, the police clearance check. And for that, you have to pay 159 Australian dollars, okay? So 159 Australian dollars for each of the countries you visited last 7 years if you spent 12 months in each of them. So now for the new parts which people didn't know, which is the Competence Assessment Examination. That's their CBT now and the OSCE. So the CBT, the theoretical examination part, which is going to be conducted by person view centers all over. The costs are quoted in New Zealand dollars but are payable in the currency of the country in which you're sitting the examination, okay? So the cost here for a part A medication safety and a part B nursing knowledge is 140 New Zealand dollars, which I don't think is too much because New Zealand dollars, it's not as strong as, of course, you know, the US dollars or what, you know. So converting New Zealand dollars now to Naira, let's say you're in Nigeria, it's a bit cheaper, okay? So that's like 140 New Zealand dollars for this CBT part, which is not too bad. If you ask me, how much are we paying for the UK CBT? So bear in mind that our first part exam is going to consist your medication safety and your nursing knowledge. So that's the CBT part, and it's 140 New Zealand dollars. Let's say you took this exam and you didn't pass, you failed. Unfortunately, you have to take a receipt. So the receipt of part A, that's the medication safety, is 32 New Zealand dollars, which is very cheap. I think it's very cheap. And then the receipt of part B, which is the nursing knowledge, is 108 New Zealand dollars. So when you're writing this exam, please guys, try to put in all effort to pass it at a go, because you don't want to pay 140 New Zealand dollars and then you have to come back to maybe fail one part and pay another 32, or fail the other part and pay another 108. Okay, so put in a lot of effort. You can do it. I believe in you. After that, the next part, which is like the OSCE part of it. Okay, now this part of it, I know the fee might be high, but then bear in mind that your employer is going to sponsor you. Okay, so while you're searching for a job, of course, you have to let the employer know, I look at the point where I am. you're going to have to sponsor the rest of it. And yes, these employers are willing to do that. Okay, so the orientation and preparation cost is what, 500 New Zealand dollars, just like the OSCE in UK. Whenever we came down, we had to do like our OSCE training for a couple of months before for them to actually prepare you before you go ahead to do like the proper OSCE. So there's going to be like an orientation program to teach you all about their own OSCE before you go ahead to do the OSCE. And for that program, you'll be paying 500 New Zealand dollars. Now your employer, hopefully your employer, will be paying 500 New Zealand dollars. And then the OSCE clinical examination itself, this at this point is where you have the highest cost. Sorry to say. So that is going to cost the employer hopefully 3,000 New Zealand dollars. Guys, that is throat cutting. 3,000 New Zealand dollars for this OSCE. Okay, so this is why you must get an employer to sponsor you. So that's going to cost you 3,000 New Zealand dollars. All right. And if for any reason you failed that OSCE, it's going to cost you to do a receipt of the OSCE another 3,000 New Zealand dollars. So guys, you make sure you have to pass it. Okay, you make sure you have to pass it. So there may be additional related costs from the external providers, such as translations of original documents into English and what. But for now, this is like the real cost breakdown of how much it's now going to cost you to be able to register with the Nursing and Midwifery Council in New Zealand as an international nurse coming to work in New Zealand. Now, I do think it's fair enough, especially since you're going to get your employer to cover the remaining parts of it, because this way there's going to be lots of international nurses being able to now move over to New Zealand from wherever you are, because the person view centers are in a lot of places. So now wherever you are, you can actually do the CBT, you can do your IELTS, and you can plan to move over to New Zealand. So please guys, like this video, hit the subscribe button if you find value in this content, and please share this video to any nurse who is looking or thinking or deliberating, thinking of where to actually relocate or migrate to. Okay, bear in mind that now in 2024 you're able to relocate to New Zealand with your family. There is no hindrance stopping you. There is nothing, you know. New Zealand is still a very fresh out place. It doesn't have too many stories back up and all that, so it might be a place you want to consider. Okay, it's a good place for you to go to if you want to. All right, so share this video to anybody who you think is going to benefit from it. And guys, I'm going to leave the link, read more about it, hit them up. If you want to start this process, start it now. If you start this process today as I'm speaking to you, before the end of this year, you'll definitely be in New Zealand with your family. Believe me, you will. So get up and do it if you have to do it. And until next time guys, I will see you again in some other of my video. See you. Bye bye.